for his thoughts on the latest developments. We're now reaching out to Flavio Volpe, a leader in Canada's automotive industry. He is president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association. Flavio, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So here you have the Prime Minister speaking with the President today, and for his part, Trump is saying that things will, quote, end up great for the United States of America and Canada. How do you interpret that?
Well, I think the caution here is that, one day is a month in this administration. And just yesterday, he finished threatening Canada and Europe not to work together, or they would receive the wrath of their other best friend, the U.S. I think it's a good moment, and I'm glad that not a lot else has come out from that call. We're in the middle of an election here, and we're headed to a pretty calamitous week this week with other universal reciprocal tariffs coming. So I think it's important that the Prime Minister spoke with the President, and that there's no drama has come out of it yet.
Yeah, no drama right now. We also got a little bit from Premier Ford yesterday because he says he had this 25-minute conversation with Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary. The Premier says that he was told that cars containing at least 50% of U.S.-made parts would be subjected to a lower tariff. I don't know if the Secretary Lutnick was trying to highlight a positive from his point of view, but what's your reaction to that?
Well, first, the fact that the Premier of Ontario has opened up a back channel to the White House is both extraordinary and a sign of the times. Then number two, none of us should get any comfort from lower tariffs. We operate in an environment where there are no tariffs in automotive, both for the Americans' benefit and the Canadians and the Mexicans' benefit. We've built businesses that work on 6 or 7% returns. Those are not high returns, but up until Donald Trump showed up the second time, those are blue chip returns. This tariff regime of jump scares and pullbacks and different layers has made this a bit of a speculative affair. Do you decide to invest in the U.S. to avoid these perils while he probably tanks the U.S. economy, so the consumer market isn't what it's promised to be? I get no comfort out of what Secretary Lutnick said. What we want to be able to see is, at some point here, we have a trade agreement with each other. That's where disputes should go. If you think that tariff level should go up from 0 to something else, do it at a table between respectful partners, and we can do this like adults. Right now, this chaos is it's not beneficial to the United States, regardless of all the rhetoric that they've been putting out there about investments that, for those of us in the business, I know those aren't real investments.
So what will tariffs do to the Canadian industry and Canadian workers?
So, Michael, I've been saying this in a few places. If you're operating in 6 and 7% profit margins, and your biggest destination market, 80% of your finished products, get a surtax of 25% on them, 4 times or so the profit margin. At some point, within a week of them coming into place, we're going to see a shutdown of the industry. The automakers can't afford that 25%, and yet they're the importer of record, or they're dealers from here. The suppliers aren't typically, and the automakers trying to push it back to the suppliers. This isn't something where you could turn around and just lower the price. You have to pay the surtax to Customs and Border Patrol. S&P Global, Cox Automotive, Linda Hassenfratz, chair of Linamar, the world's Canada's second biggest supplier, but global top 25, have all warned that we're going to see shutdowns start when those runways run out, when companies pay that tariff 1 day, 2 days, and then say to the White House, you're either going to remove it or we got to shut down, and we'll go challenge it in court. And so, if the president is serious and there isn't a U-turn coming for Wednesday, well, then by next Wednesday, we're going to be where we were in the first phase of the pandemic, controlled shutdown, and he's going to have to deal with American auto workers who are at home, the same way that Canada, Ontario especially, are going to have to deal with Canadian auto workers who are at home.
So hearing how profound an impact tariffs will have on the Canadian economy, on the auto industry, North American auto industry, you sit on the Prime Minister's Advisory Council. What's your advice to Mark Carney?
Well, first is a little bit of context and perspective. Yes, we need to counter them, but there's nothing that we can do that's going to be worse than what in automotive the president is going to do to his own industry. Uh, if he causes further shutdown of not just the Detroit Three, but other automotive assemblers from other countries who have set up in the U.S. and the hundreds of thousands of people who make parts for those cars, uh, that's going to be a problem he's going to have to mitigate by removing the impediment for them going to work. For us, we're part of a bigger Canadian response. And yes, there were auto tariffs announced yesterday, but Canada has been threatened with 3 layers or 4 layers of tariffs, raw materials, border tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, and then whatever might happen in the USMCA. We don't want an exemption. We're not looking for an exemption. Let the auto piece play out, and whatever cards that Canada has to play, don't waste one on this one. Use it to help the ag business, the fisheries, oil and gas services. And we cautioned that the best way to play that was wait until those tariffs come in and other layers of tariffs come in before you decide how to play those cards. What we have learned in this current Trump administration is 4 days is a long time, and keep some of that powder dry because it might be worthless by Sunday.
Why not play the card for the auto industry?
If we countered, so first of all, their move is going to cause for the auto industry to shut down. So how much worse could our counter be? What are we adding there? So for Canadians and Canadian and companies that have committed to doing assembly here, Canadians who are in maintenance, repair, and overhaul of current vehicles, maybe it's not prudent to raise the prices on the stuff that we're sourcing from the U.S. in that period, because in fairness, we may not need them for assembly. It might be that when we see everything else, that's a card that's left to play and we can use it. But we export as many cars as we import from the U.S., but that market is, in the automotive world, is about 8 times bigger. The effect that we can have might be short-term hurt, but we can't drag them out like they hope to do to us. So be smart about the leverage we have.
Flavio Volpe, always appreciate the insight. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Michael.